This is me. This is my review of First Reformed. So we are quite a way into Oscar season at this point in terms of movies that have come out, movies that we've already seen. Star is Born, First Man, Eighth Grade, Black Klansman, Black Panther. We've seen a couple of really good ones. So I want you to keep that in mind when I say what I'm about to say next. In my opinion, I think First Reformed might be the best film I have seen this year. But with that being said, that doesn't necessarily mean that you should watch it. This is one of the most brutal films I have ever sat through. And not brutal in a way that it's excessively violent or excessively gory, although, well, I don't want to spoil anything. But what makes this film brutal is the brutal honesty it has about the world, and particularly about the primary theme of this film is hope versus despair. And it really addresses this in such a way that, as someone who has dealt with depression, and I don't want to I don't want to say too much about my own life now, but this is a film that hit very hard for me personally, because it's particularly about the hope versus the despair that we have in the world, in our own lives, in many different ways. It can be in a personal relationship, if we hope things will go well, versus the despair to our hope for the future, for our children, for our children's future, and primarily also for the future of the planet, with the whole global issue of climate change, which is something that has definitely been worrying me. It's also been worrying a lot of people, and it's something that we just have to not think about because, or we try and say it doesn't exist. Which I don't want to get too political in this, but the film also addresses that aspect of it. It's a film, and I can just tell you right now, not everyone is going to like this film. It is slow-paced, and some could argue that it takes sides. I don't really think it does. I think it presents multiple different sides of the issue, of various issues. And the film is about Ethan Hawke's character, who is a pastor, a reverend, and he is, at the beginning of the film, presented as a very good man, a very good and moral Christian. He is wise, he knows a lot about Christianity, and he is able to help a lot of people. And then he comes in contact with this couple, played by Amanda Seyfried, and I don't know the name of the guy who plays I don't know the name of the guy who plays her husband, but he basically, she is pregnant, and her husband wants to abort it, and his main reason for wanting to abort it is because he is terrified by the concept of climate change, and he doesn't want his child to grow up in that world. And over the course of just the first conversation between Ethan Hawke and the husband is an incredible scene, because right away we see the characters, but we also see the very real arguments on both sides of what is a complicated issue, and what do you want to believe in, and this whole moral issue of hope versus despair, and the whole character arc that Ethan Hawke's Reverend goes through over the course of the film is just brutal to watch, and it is uncomfortable, and it is that's the thing about this film. It is, if I had to make a comparison, I'd say it's like 12 Years a Slave or Beasts of No Nation, in that it is brutal to watch, and it's hard to sit through. Only in that film, it was a lot of violence and a lot of blood and a lot of harshness being committed. And in this one, it's subtler. It creeps. There's definitely harshness, but it's not so obvious about it. The harshness is just in the world in general. And for someone like me going through what I'm going through at the moment, it rings true a lot closer. And obviously, I think a lot of other people are going to have different interpretations of this film, and that's fine. No two interpretations of any film are ever alike. Film is art; it's subjective. But this was a film that really grabbed me. It is a slower paced movie, and normally with slower paced films, I have a tendency to let my mind wander during certain moments. But during this film, I was 100% hooked all the way in. And even though I didn't really want to be, like I kind of wanted to just stop watching the movie and turn it off, but at the same time, I couldn't do that to myself. Like I had to see this through to the end. And when you see what it ultimately amounts to, it does end gladly. It does end on a note of hope, which is very, very powerful. And so it addresses all these complicated issues from many different perspectives. We see from Hawke's perspective, from the husband's perspective, also from Amanda Seyfried, who everyone's talked about Ethan Hawke's performance, and he is definitely very good in the role. But I was honestly a little bit more impressed with Amanda Seyfried. I have nothing against her as an actress, but I don't usually see her transforming herself in a role. But this time I really did. She just blew me away. It seemed so honest and raw. And Ethan Hawke, of course, also does a very good job. He's in this conversation for a reason. The screenplay, obviously very good. This is from the same guy who wrote Taxi Driver and Raging Bull. And he's never been nominated for an Oscar, which is insane. So I hope he does. This screenplay is amazing. Where this film really belongs, though, is Best Picture, in my personal opinion. This is not an easy film to sit through. It's not fun by any stretch of the imagination, but it is one of those movies that just... I feel like I'm repeating myself. I didn't make notes for this one. Usually I make notes, but I just wanted to get this off my chest as soon as possible. First Reformed is not an easy watch, but it is... Ultimately, I'm glad that I saw it, and I feel that there are conversations that you can have after you see this film, and I don't know how much my own personal experience is dictating my review, but I feel that's part of what makes cinema so powerful, and that different people have experienced different things, and different people are going to relate to things more. I related to this film a lot more than I thought I would, a lot more than I typically do to these indie dramas. And this was a very, very powerful film for me. And I know a lot of other people found it very powerful. It was nominated for 3 Gotham Awards. Hopefully, it continues to do well in the awards circuit. But I can understand if this doesn't do well, because, like I said before, it's not a fun time. And a lot of people... Like, make sure you're in a good place mentally before you watch this, because it is just harsh. But with that being said... I was completely with it throughout the entirety of the runtime, which surprised me a little bit because it is a slow-moving film. It is almost a 2-hour film, and yet it completely sucked me into its world and to its characters. I was completely invested, and I wanted to know what was going to happen. And this is one I can even... Not right away, it'll give me some time, but I can't imagine myself going back and rewatching this film simply because of how powerful it is, and it is very good filmmaking, very good directing, very good acting. It is just... Yeah, I don't know if I can really recommend this one. It is unbelievably powerful and harsh and brutal, and it is a special film in its own way, and it's a film that... It's a film that got me thinking about things that I didn't really want to think about. So take that however you will. Decide for yourself if you want to see it. I just need to think for a while. So thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video. See you, bye.